All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Yeah. Kim, wow. It keeps running. That just keeps looping. Is that how that works?
No, I think you have something open. You must have YouTube
something open. Of course I do.
That
just keeps looping. Is that how?
Lord have mercy. You got it. Oh, you've muted yourself. I see what's happening here. Well, this is what happens when we don't have a Tony or an Albert, but we'll muddle our way through this Mark Thompson show. You have a YouTube instance open? Is that what's happening? YouTube instance open? Is that what's happening?
I don't know what's going on right now. I love it, though. There's a certain, like, a wild quality to the whole thing right now. What's going on right now? Everything's coming back to me, like a wild quality to the whole thing. Oh, I know what's going on.
I don't know what's happening.
I do. I just ended it.
The red shirt?
I ended it. I took care of it. Yeah, I saved the universe. Thank you very much. I'll take my prize off the air. Thank you very much, everybody. Sadly, I created the problem, and then I had to take care of the problem. So
everything is going extremely well.
Well, it's not going super well. I would have liked the Echo not to have greeted us, but sometimes that can't happen.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
I didn't really know what the problem was, but I did take care of it.
Doesn't lay the groundwork for the whole show.
No.
Stage.
It was a...
Tell us about the scene. It was rife with technical errors through the show.
A pretty brutal scene off the top.
What can you tell us about the scene?
A pretty rough start to the show, Larry. A pretty rough show start.
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Casey gets it. You got to just live with it. I welcome you all. I also want to welcome Kim, who is here, as you know, Kim, every day. She keeps track of news events as they break. By the way, speaking of breaking news, there is I guess, a settlement. This just hit my breaking news box. Priscilla Presley reaching a settlement agreement over her petition. You remember, she was questioning the validity of her daughter's will. They've reached a settlement. So those of you who are following that, settlement has been reached. Essentially, to remind you, that agreement names Riley, Lisa Marie's oldest daughter, as the beneficiary for her mother's estate. And the mother, again, Priscilla, was saying, whoa, wait a minute. I challenge the validity of this. So the two parties, the estate of the daughter and Priscilla, meet in private, and they arbitrate this settlement. And the families are happy, it says, according to reporters outside the court who, yes, I'm always for happy, so that's great. So that's your breaking news of the moment.
It's always hard when somebody dies and then the money is the problem. You know,
it's like all about the money.
It would have been really nice if they could have come together in grief and kind of helped each other through it. And instead it was a legal issue. That's always ugly. Riley, by the way, she was in that new, is it Netflix? Whatever streaming service, this new show, and she's really good in it. Have you watched it? It's where she plays a pop star.
This new show on Netflix does not give me quite enough to go on. But now the pop star thing does help me. She plays a pop star, and what is she? Can you?
What's the name of it? She plays a pop star. She's got a drug addiction. She rises to fame. She joins this band, but she's really more of a solo artist. She's kind of a free spirit. No, nothing. Nothing comes to you?
No, but
Daisy,
I mean,
it's called Daisy Jones and the Six.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll check it out. Yeah.
It's good. Daisy Jones and the Six.
All right. I will check it out. Thank you. I didn't know about that. Speaking of singing, I still haven't been able to open Kim's daughter's performance that Kim sent to me several days ago. I guess Kim's daughter, who is a performer, like a real singer, theater performer, she had a performance that Kim must have liked very much. And she sent to me this file that has the child's performance there. Julie is Kim's daughter.
With an Julia. Yeah.
Julia. Mm-hmm. I call her Julie. Maybe that's why she doesn't respond to me.
Kim, how are you?
The performance from Julia still won't open. So, in a way, it might be good. Because, Kim, I'm not just some dude who is going to sit there and go, oh, my God, your daughter is so terrific. She's so talented. I myself have a background in musical theater. Perhaps you're not aware of that.
I didn't know.
Yes, I was the lead in the longest-running off-Broadway show in history, The Fantastics, everyone. Thank you very much.
I love that play.
Yes.
Where did that show? Where were you?
Well, I was in high school at the time. But the point is, many said that the quality of my performance was such that it could have been transferred to the off-Broadway stage seamlessly.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know. Are you a singer? You have that
Are you a singer?
Going for you?
Really? Yeah. Are you a singer? After I've just told you that I was the lead in The Fantastics, you ask me, are you a singer? You really have a lot of... You don't get it.
You just don't get it, do you?
You don't.
You don't.
You don't.
I mean, do you sing now? Do you sing in the shower? Are you constantly
do you sing
singing?
Now? Well, that's a fair question.
Have you sung through your life? I mean...
I'm musically
singing tap
gifted,
dance around the kitchen.
Tell you that.
That's not fake. That's real.
I'm musically gifted. Yes. But I'm not saying that I'm the greatest singer, although maybe I am. But I'm saying I have a background in musical theater and in performance and stage performance. So when you send me Julia's performance,
I should expect the real response.
Exactly.
If I'm being honest, it was horrible.
No, I don't think it's going to be horrible. But I'm just saying that I'm bound as a performer to give you an honest appraisal of your child's work. And so that's what I shall do.
I think there's a hint of desperation. I really do.
I don't think that. I think she's going to be great. I've heard her a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not just some guy. I'm some guy with some real chops.
A bit pub singer-ish, I thought.
No, maybe it will be pub singer. Maybe she's playing a pub singer. Have you ever thought of that? If you're playing a pub singer, then pub singer-ish actually is exactly what the role demands. So I'm excited to see it, but as yet I have not been able to open it. So
I'll have to work on that.
I don't want you to be intimidated. I was just trying to tell you that
I know. Now I don't know if I want to send it.
That's the point. I feel like but I had to make the point. But I'm still looking forward to receiving anything
Julie knew you were musical. Work. And I have a request from Mike Garcia. He wants you to demo some of your singing.
Don't tempt me, Mike. Once I start, I can't stop.
The Mark Thompson Show.
We've got a lot of stuff coming up. David K. Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner, weighs in the second hour. I also want to touch on, maybe I'll do it with David, and if for any reason we don't get to it with David, I'll touch on what happens if we actually default. Now, you may say, well, this is the same default theatrics that we go through occasionally. Didn't go through it when Trump was in power because the Democrats, of course, don't play this game. But the ideas, typically don't play this game, but the idea somehow that you could actually take the nation into default, which is something that Trump alluded to in that conversation he had in the CNN town hall, it's ludicrous. It's so beyond the pale. It's so completely loony because it throws the economy on its side. It turns America into, it kills the dollar also. So everything gets more expensive because the dollar will be devalued. It's insanity, in short. But I mention it because from a political standpoint, you're now dealing with a configuration of political figures in Washington very different than what you've seen in the past. I've mentioned this before, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world, the Lauren Boeberts of the world. These are people who won their districts because of gerrymandering and because of extremist views being popular in those districts. But now these people sit with enough power that they can influence McCarthy's agenda. McCarthy, who's probably a more reasonable mainstreamer when it comes to his GOP stripes, but because he's really being controlled by this very thin margin that consists of the Lauren Boeberts of the world, he kind of has to push this very extreme agenda. So now back to default. Part of that extreme agenda is not giving at all to the libs on this debt cap and raising the ceiling. And as we've discussed before, this is money that's already been spent. So when you talk about spending, we're talking about future spending. You're trying to ensure future spending guarantees when the reality is you're not approving the spending that's already gone down through the Trump-Biden world, meaning those administrations. In other words, that debt was fed by both Trump and Biden. So I want to talk to David about what really happens. And it's a pretty extraordinary list of things that happen. And I mention it because it can be used by Democrats. You really could message more powerfully on this, but the Democrats tend to not message powerfully. And so, again, we'll get to it with David K. Johnston. That's in the 11 o'clock hour, around 11:05 Pacific time, if you're watching in the Pacific time zone. I've gotten some cool emails from East Coast and from Midwest. So if you're watching in those different time zones, your time. And of course, if you're watching in delay, good on you. And watching in your convenience, good for you. Smash the like button like a boss.
Smash
anyway.
It with your iron rod.
Throw us a thumbs up. It helps. Last night I met I'll tell you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I was at a dinner party last night, and I met two people, new viewers. And this is the way I'm bringing viewers to the show. One dinner party at a time. I intend to build my subs to 11,780. That's all we need. And
so if people invite you to a dinner party, you'll likely come and convince people to watch the show?
I didn't convince them, actually, in this case. But you're right. I'm not beyond I'll do the anti-convince. That's where you go, I don't know if it's for you. You might not like it. I do the anti-convince so that they want to watch it. You might find it not for you. But this guy was super cool. In fact, as he's talking, he's a really cool dude. He is a music producer and performer. And he's worked with Hall & Oates, and he's a pretty big deal. And his wife is a singer, songwriter, and she's really good too. So maybe we'll get them both on the show. But those are two new subscribers, so I'm very excited.
Well done.
And he was already subscribed. I think he, saw that I was going to be at the dinner, and then he said, I'll check this guy's stuff out. And he was very, very pleasant. So, again, I just have to get invited to more stuff to build subscribers and to get more thumbs up. I mean, that's the key. Smash it like with your iron rod.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Yeah. So that was really cool. The other thing that was interesting at this dinner, and tell me how you, it's not a name drop, Ricky. I mean, I'm just trying to explain that the dude is an interesting background. I feel like, was it a name drop, Kim?
No, you didn't say a name.
No, I don't think it was a name. I mean, I mentioned Hall & Oates. I'm just trying to explain who the guy, was. Yeah. And the reason I'm not mentioning his name is I don't know if he'd want that. I don't want to just, everybody who I meet, I don't want to think, oh, great. You meet Mark Thompson, then he mentions you, on the show. So, anyway, I I thought it was an interesting table full of, Tom, will you come to my birthday party? Yeah, Tom, if there are new subscribers there, then I'm all over the birthday party.
He'll give him a hard sell, though, so you got to watch.
Right.
Yeah.
How big a Tom Malloy birthday party will it be? If there are enough there, I will be there. And I can do the anti-sell. Sometimes you have to do the sell, but I think the anti-sell is oftentimes the right way to go. There were like these, at the table, maybe 4 alpha personalities. That's always interesting to see how multiple alpha personalities are going to establish themselves in a group dynamic. You know what I mean? So you have somebody who is a natural kind of center of attention performer.
Who would that be?
The comedian, the comedian, well, how dare you? How dare you?
Listen to me. I don't want to hear you.
You're at the table. No one else can get a word in edgewise.
How dare you? I am astounded.
What?
Oh, no, not the Thompson table.
I actually, there are 10,000 subscribers at the border, says Peace. Very well done. Yeah. The person who I think has the strongest alpha personality and is also a great performer and funny and terrific is Elaine Boozler, the comedian. She was there.
Oh,
and
okay, cool.
She's a trailblazer and she's comfortable on stage. She's also a very big personality, and that's a good thing because she's very funny. But it's interesting. And then the table's big enough to break up the dynamic so it's not just one person dominating. But then, you have all of us who are used to being on, you know what I mean? So it was interesting. You think it was payback for me to be around those other alpha personalities for not giving Kim the rod of equity and
that's right,
and mercy? Yeah, maybe. Look, I don't want to discuss the rod of equity and mercy right now, but Kim is still not deserving of it. Okay, straight up. Sorry, it's just the truth.
Yeah.
Now, let me get into some new.
Somehow my life is okay with. I mean, I seem to go on. So, would I like the rod of equity and mercy? I mean,
President Trump,
really. But
that was good because you don't want to seem too cool for the rod of equity and mercy. Right. Don't seem too cool for it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I thought it was interesting that Brooke Jenkins, who's the DA in San Francisco, says no charges in that Walgreens shooting. The guy apparently, and I'm talking about when I say the guy, the security guard who shot and killed one of the shoplifters, he was it was a one-man band situation, was defending himself, is the argument. She made public statements saying, hey, you're allowed to do that. In fact, if you feel that there is an imminent threat, you're allowed to shoot and kill. There is surveillance video of it. I may put it up on my Twitter feed. It's funny, I haven't tweeted that the show's on the air yet today, but I'll put up, if I can find the video, it's everywhere.
I have it. I don't know if you want me to show it, but I do have it.
I wouldn't show it because if you do, I think the episode might get taken down or it could be demonetized. I think Tony would probably tell us to not show it. Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. Tony's here, by the way. He's monitoring. But I also think that it's worth a word because something happened in that exchange that I'm sure a lot of San Franciscans feel right on. You know what I mean? It's essentially it wasn't just I'm going to describe the video. It wasn't just a guy takes a bunch of stuff off the shelf, runs, turns, and gets shot. It was a wrestling match. You saw it, right, Kim? It was a scuffle. Okay.
There was a lunge. The shoplifter lunged at the security guard.
And so they end up on the ground. You saw that, right? They end up on the ground for some time. And then he gets up. They both get up. And the shoplifter, right at the threshold of the door of the Walgreens, turns. He's walking out. He turns, as Kim says. I don't know if he lunged. I don't know if he just, made an aggressive movement, or what could be termed an aggressive movement or interpreted as an aggressive movement. But at that moment, the security guard shot him and killed him. And actually, he was maybe would you say, a foot or two outside the store? He fell on the sidewalk out front.
Yeah.
The guards company told them to engage and try to get the items back. He was charged with that responsibility, what Joe is saying in the chat. So this is the lunge that you talk about. Brooke Jenkins described as a lunging motion in the security guard's direction, and that is why she declined to file charges, because she believes the security guard was acting in self-defense. So it was that movement right before the shots were fired that led her to go, okay, he was defending himself. Yeah, this is interesting. Joe Box weighing in the chat, and he says,
Joe Box and Little Anthony.
That story got airplay here in New York. The person arguing that they should be allowed to steal, do what they need to do to survive, is BS, in my opinion. No consequences allows for rampant crime. Not completely a ridiculous notion. I mean, what's happened in San Francisco and other major cities, and now San Francisco has kind of become the poster child for this, but it's happening in Philadelphia and Chicago, and it's happening in other cities across the country, is there is a brazen quality to the shoplifting and the stealing because they know there is no consequence in the moment. Brazen is a ding word, by the way. So, but this is the problem in this specific instance, that you can look at the video and say, I don't know, I didn't see an aggressive move. Like, here you go. Christopher says, I watched the video. He didn't make an aggressive movement when leaving. It's a, I think it's an interpretive art. I mean, as Kim says, that's what Brooke Jenkins is saying, that he interpreted it as aggressive. It's weird to me because I'll tell you what's odd, Kim. It's odd that during that whole rolling around and wrestling match on the floor of the Walgreens, that there were no shots fired. He waited until the guy was essentially out of the store, but then the guy turned. Had the guy not turned, he'd probably be alive today.
That's right. It's interesting to me how different people can watch the same video and come away with such a different opinion. And that's what we saw last night, where, Brooke Jenkins releases this video, which had been, San Francisco city supervisors have been clamoring for her to release it. She releases it. And then all of a sudden last night there were protests who killed Banco Brown. He was fine. He was not dangerous. He was murdered. So how some people could see it and go, yep, he acted in self-defense, and other people could see it as the guy was mowed down.
Yeah. The criticism of Jenkins is just kind of what Kim is saying, which is that she didn't release the video, then did release the video. Then there seemed to be messaging from the DA's office, which was, we haven't decided whether we're going to prosecute. Maybe we're going to. No, we're not. Then finally she came out with a strong position with the release of the video saying we're not going to prosecute for the reasons that we've already said. So, and I think it's true. You can look at that video and get a couple of things. Randy's not wrong. You see what you want to see sometimes. Yeah. I like Jenkins, says Paul, but this guard had this under control at the end. If Banco's the name of the dude.
Banco Brown.
Yeah, had a gun or gestured as such, I would say justified. I don't know what that means. He had it under control at the end. He had this under control at the end. I mean, the guy was leaving with the goods. And if he was charged with getting the goods, it seems crazy that you're going to kill somebody over this.
No.
But Maybe Brown should not have fought the security guard at all, says Randy. It's a very, very, Jennifer says, yeah, Kim is right. Typical eyewitness situation. Everyone sees it differently. And this is a big story in San Francisco. And you know something? In a way, it dovetails with the story in New York on the subway train where you've got a guy who sees somebody harassing passengers and he takes the law into his own hands. Now, you may say, well, he's not a deputized guy the way the Walgreens guard is. Yeah. Okay, but he's deputized as a citizen to try to intercede and stop this harassment. Of course, that guy in New York is being prosecuted for murder.
By the way, an inordinate amount of people donated to his legal defense fund. His name is Daniel Penny. More than $2 million raised so far.
Yeah, that's in New York. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I also have something else in New York, and I guess I'll get to it now because I think while it takes place in New York, it really applies to all of us, entire crew, who've been following the bouncing Rudy Giuliani ball. So let's get to that.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Rudy Giuliani is accused of offering to sell Trump pardons for $2 million each. This is all in a new lawsuit.
Rudy.
The suit includes allegations of sexual assault and harassment. And by the way, this suit really is about that. It's about sexual assault and harassment in the workplace, and it's about promise of payment, for work done and no payment received. That's really the centerpiece of this legal action. It's not the centerpiece of the legal action, the $2 million for a pardon thing. That's kind of thrown in to essentially establish that the person suing actually worked with and had a back and forth dynamic with Rudy Giuliani. So that's I think, an interesting fact that she's not suing Giuliani and not alleging this wrongdoing in any kind of to make the $2 million pay-to-play pardon deal that essentially she's suggesting Giuliani regularly was doing. Her suit is not about that. She was working for Rudy Giuliani, she says, during the last 2 years of the Trump administration. And then this is a wide-ranging lawsuit. And she's saying, and because I think this is honestly shocking yet not shocking, that Giuliani discussed selling presidential pardons, detailed plans to overturn the 2020 election results as well. It's a 70-page complaint filed in state court in New York. This just happened yesterday. Her name's Noelle Dunphy, by the way. She was hired in January of 2019, she says. Giuliani sexually assaulted and harassed her, says the suit, refused to pay her wages, and often made sexist, racist, and anti-Semitic remarks. That's a quote from the lawsuit. She has recordings of numerous interactions with him. She wants $10 million in compensatory and punitive damages. Punitive is a ding word. She had been hired for $1 million a year in addition to expenses and pro bono legal representation for a domestic abuse case against a former partner. Wow, there's a lot of money in that Trump world, huh? Remember Giuliani was making $25,000 a day? I don't know if he ever got the money. And she's getting $1 million a year. At least that was the deal that she's saying she got. After she was hired, she alleges that Giuliani kept her employment, quote, secret, and paid her only about $12,000 and reimbursed some of her business expenses. He owes her, by her reckoning, $1,988,000 in unpaid wages.
What?
She was fired in January 2021. Giuliani, of course, denies the allegations through a spokesperson.
She says she's got recordings of it, right?
Oh, yeah. No, she says she's got recordings, and she doesn't have recordings of the $2 million thing. She said Giuliani claimed to have, quote, immunity, and told her, quote, that he was selling pardons for $2 million, which he and President Trump would split that $2 million. The lawsuit did not suggest that any pardons were actually sold. And no response from the Trump people. But in a way, it is not shocking. I mean, Giuliani, so far down the Trump river, it's not in a way at all shocking that these allegations come forward. She also said that he was drunk a lot of the time. She says that Giuliani gave her a glimpse into plans to overturn the election if Trump lost, telling her, quote, Trump's team would claim that there was voter fraud and that Trump had actually won the election. Giuliani's already lost his law license in New York. And he could lose his law license beyond that, I think, as a result. He's involved in a criminal investigation, as you're aware. That's in Georgia. And he's also involved in the investigation around J6. That's the one from the feds. So Giuliani's got a lot of stuff on his plate, and now he can add to that stuff this new lawsuit, which is really, as I say, about the workplace and about Giuliani harassing her sexually on the job. But that's the latest from Giuliani land and Trump land as well.
The Mark Thompson Show.
When we come back, I have a bit of an interview that Kim saw about artificial intelligence, and it's pretty compelling. The suggestion that AI is fast-tracking its way to essentially capturing our lives in a way. Stay with me. And once it gets enough about you, your identity, the way you speak, it's able to so effectively imitate you that it could transform its ability to really take over lives in very short order. I mean, it is out of science fiction, and the person making these points will astound you who it is who's making these very compelling points. We'll do that. I also have a major piece of archaeological news, and it will involve a quiz today. And you don't need to know anything. It's very guessable, the quiz, but we will get to that as well. So much
when
to
you
do.
have the quiz. That's really exciting.
Yeah, well, the kids love the quizzes.
Yeah,
so smash the like button.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Thumbs up me. Come on, baby. Thumbs up me.
With your iron rod.
I need the thumbs up. I live for the thumbs up. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. President Biden will sit down pretty soon with Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, and other congressional leaders later today. They'll be resuming talks about the debt limit and avoiding default. The U.S. could be unable to pay its bills and default on its debt as soon as June 1st if Congress doesn't act. Republicans still demanding deep spending cuts in exchange for their votes to increase the nation's borrowing limit, while Biden wants an increase without any conditions attached. The former CEO of collapsed Silicon Valley Bank says he's truly sorry. Can I get a my bad? I'm sorry. He's truly sorry for the bank's failure and the crisis.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Yes, and the crisis that it triggered.
I'm sure that makes investors feel better.
I'm truly
We were
sorry.
always just one my bad, I'm sorry away from getting this economy back on.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we even threw in a second one.
Greg Becker testified before the Senate Banking Committee this morning. He said the collapse was a shock to him. He added he worked closely with advisors and the bank was actively responding to concerns from regulators as well. So, yeah, took him by surprise. Students apparently are continuing to show some pretty alarming signs when it comes to mental health. Denise Fort, president of the Washington, D.C.-based Education Trust, says nearly 40% of high school students are experiencing poor mental health. She says that 1 out of 5 teens has thought about suicide. 1 out of 10 has attempted it. It's pretty alarming numbers.
Wow. Wow.
The San Francisco District Attorney's Office is revealing a
What do you
series...
think the reason for that is now? Why is there more depression that ends with this awful attempt to take your own life? I mean, among teens, I ask you because you have a teenager in the house.
Yeah, and I feel like COVID was really hard for teens. They suffered from isolation in a time when they usually, are making friends, and friendships are the most important things to them. And then they went back to school and they had to kind of work to relearn how to make all these friends and start from the beginning. I don't know. I mean, I can't pinpoint it other
But
than
you
to
think that
say
it was a COVID thing? You think that COVID has made...
I think we're still coming out of COVID, and I think also social media doesn't help. Yeah.
Right.
No. But it's concerning, and I think parents need to be very aware and pay very close attention. The San Francisco-based district attorney's office is revealing a series of reports and videos connected with the shooting death of Banko Brown. As Mark was discussing, after the release of the video yesterday, protesters lined up on Market Street in San Francisco in support of Brown. Here's what at least one of them had to say.
Say his name! Banko Brown! Justice for who? Banko Brown! Justice for who? Banko Brown! Say his name! Banko!
Yeah, protesters yesterday on Market Street. The new surveillance video shows the confrontation between a Walgreens security guard and Brown. Brown, a 24-year-old transgender black man, was shot by the security guard after allegedly shoplifting from the store. The district attorney's office announced there's insufficient evidence to file criminal charges against the security guard, saying he believed his life was in imminent danger before that shooting. According to the DA, Brown was unarmed when he was killed, but he made a sudden movement before he was shot. A recall has been issued by Stellantis, the maker of Jeep. I got a really pretty picture of a Jeep, too, for you. Here it is.
Wow.
Look at
that.
that.
That is it.
Isn't that a
nice picture of a Jeep?
I mean, the sun rising or setting.
That's how they sell cars. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
You don't want this one. The automaker says 2014 to 2016 Jeeps equipped with a power lift gate could catch fire even if the vehicle's off. The lift gate, something in that mechanism.
Wow.
The problem is water can get into the control computer, causing an electrical short. And so they say, don't park it inside. You park your Jeep outside right now until they can get this fixed, because it can catch fire spontaneously. Whoops. No.
Wow.
That's not fake. That's real.
That's pretty scary.
Right?
I'm just saying. Yeah. There's one thing you should know before you drive off the lot with this car.
Yeah.
It could just burst into flames at any point.
Yeah. You don't want that. Yeah. Don't park it inside. Park it outside, far away from your house, down the street. Not in front of a tree either. Figures show retail sales rose for the first time in 2 months in April. The Commerce Department says spending on cars, food, and gas increased 0.4% last month, but the gain was less than expected, as most Americans paid slightly less at the gas pumps. The Department of Justice is charging a former Apple employee with stealing autonomous technology on behalf of a Chinese self-driving car company.
That doesn't seem very cool.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think you should do that.
It's not very nice. I'm sorry. No. I paused because I was trying to get the this very important picture up as I discussed Apple, because I don't know what we would do without that.
You're right. I was having trouble visualizing Apple.
Right. Weibo Wang is his name, and Weibo Wang worked as a software engineer and was among 2% of Apple's employees who had access to proprietary databases. The Department of Justice claims Wang stole Apple's entire autonomy source code and handed it right over to a Chinese company. What? Federal agents raided Wang's home. They say they found large amounts of stolen confidential data. Wang faces 6 counts each. 6 counts, each of which carries a 10-year sentence. So, sayonara, sucker. The Mark Thompson Show is crowdfunded. That means we have to rely on you.
Sucker.
Thank you very much. You can help keep us going by contributing via Patreon and PayPal. You can find the links and so much more at themarkthompsonshow.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Everything is going extremely well. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
I apologize to every preacher and pastor.
What he's got going here is a situation.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
No, no, no.
60% of the time, it works every time.
What up, everybody? Great to be with you. Yes, Mark Thompson Show. I'm Mark. If you're new here, it's sort of a mix. It's the radio show come to YouTube. We brought Kim. We've got Tony with us, who is the master of all things technical.
Thanks, Tony.
Albert is on vacation this week.
Albert, thank you.
He's in Korea. It'd be nice if he sent us some pictures. We have received some travel pictures from John Daly, who used to be the producer on this show. He's in Great Britain. Haven't received anything from Albert. I think, to be fair, he's just touched down in Korea. So, but very, very cool. Now, I promised you a quiz that's still coming up. I should mention just after 11 o'clock, the Pulitzer Prize winner, David K. Johnston. We'll talk about the debt limit and what I think is a concocted, manufactured, almost hostage situation that has been created effectively, frankly, by the right, by the GOP. And whether or not Joe Biden and the Dems have the guts and the political fortitude to push through and ignore a lot of what's going on in the GOP side. We'll talk to David about how that might be done. Fortitude, you're right, is a ding word. In any case, we'll is that Belinda Weymouth in the background, Al's asking, with the tote bag. Now, this tote bag is available at getmarkmerch.com, as all of these things are. There's the throw pillow, the bottle opener, the coffee mug, all of these things and more available at getmarkmerch.com. Tote bag, underappreciated and maybe one of my favorite things at getmarkmerch.com. In the tote bag, only tote bag, that is not Belinda. That is friend of the show and magnificent songwriter, writer of the theme to Friends, writer of September, the Earth, Wind, and Fire song. That's Allie Willis. And Allie, rest in peace, passed away a couple of years ago. But we still have the paddle with Allie's face on it, and it sits here proudly on the show, and I will always have it there because I loved her very deeply. The mug, the pot holder, the Mark's Magic pot holder is an affordable item, and it is also, might I say, a favorite item.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Again, not that kind of pot. It's for handling hot pots that you might have in the kitchen. So once again, it's all at getmarkmerch.com. Hadn't expected to talk about it.
I would argue that it has quite a pocket there. You could really stash whatever you needed to inside.
I wouldn't dispute that, actually. I think you may be right about that. It's got a big enough pocket that you could fit a little.
Isn't anybody but a we?
A little bit in. You could fit a little bit in. And in a weird way, it's a good place to stash anything that you don't want found, because who's going to check a potholder for it?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So very, very good point. Anyway, that's at getmarkmerch.com. And of course, the stuff, we don't really make much money on the merch. It's kind of a fun thing to do, but any extra money goes into the show. So there's that. Thanks for, I'll fill that potholder up, says Grady. Okay. All right. I have two things and two pieces of business before we get to the great David K. Johnston. So let me get into it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I promised you a quiz. And I'm going to deliver a quiz. And it's not just a quiz that I'm concocting. It's based on a news item of today. Tony, do you have the quiz up in the YouTube chat?
Oh, hold on. It's not letting me post it. Hold on.
Okay. Well, tell me when you're ready.
Thanks, Tony.
And when Tony's ready, and I'll just tell you this, and then we'll post it. They just did a bunch of research. You know, it's an odd thing that despite the fact that there's been all this research and all this archaeology around ancient Egypt and around ancient societies that essentially had at their nucleus perhaps a lot of what was going on in ancient Egypt, archaeologists are still finding all this new stuff. And they're trying to literally piece together certain things they find, artifacts with certain customs and rituals that took place in ancient times. And so this story.
It's ready.
They found all of these appendages, and they find them in various places, and they figure out
like arms
that it
and
was.
legs?
Hold on. Please raise your hand before you speak. The thing that they're realizing is that as soldiers went to battle, they would remove the appendage of their enemies. When they returned from combat, they would present these bags full of appendages to Pharaoh as evidence of defeating their enemies. Our quiz is, and you can vote now, what appendage was it? And here are your choices. Was
Penis.
it? Well, I will say that the soldiers at the time, there were no women fighting, so it was just men. So it's not a bad guess. Is it, what appendage was removed by soldiers in combat at the time of ancient Egypt and then presented to Pharaoh in large numbers? Was it the hand, the foot, the penis, or the ear of their enemy? Hand, foot, penis, or ear? It's up in the chat now. You can vote, and Tony is monitoring the voting. Well, they were presenting this. It's not clear as to whether or not they were trying to get the rod of equity and mercy. Although I'm sure that was in play.
I think ear, because wasn't there a bag of ears in the movie Gladiator?
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
Well,
Clearly that's not meant for me. No.
The rod of equity and mercy was perhaps presented to a few of these returning soldiers.
No.
Ear all the way, better to hear, says Grady. I say ear. There is something biblical about it, says Natalie. Ear is easy to get, easy to transport, says Wes. Ear, says Neiman. Lend me your ear, says Jim. Ear is logical. Penis is the fun answer.
Truth. You got it, Al.
penis proves death.
Although
says
maybe
somebody. Cooper,
that's
I think,
where,
says that.
the saying bag of D's, maybe that's where it came from, a big whole bag of them.
A whole big
Carrying
bag
them
of
through
penises. Wow.
Yeah.
Tony, where's the voting in the chat? And then I'll tell you the answer.
Well, it started with, the degenerates in our chat had totally went full, but now ears winning.
Oh, you mean penis was winning and then...
Oh, yeah. It was so...
I don't think that's a
running away with
degenerate
me.
guess,
You
but...
don't want to say penis,
All right.
Tony?
Let me give
Trying
you
to
the
save the show from
answer.
demonetization.
That make you feel uncomfortable, maybe?
The
No, not at
ritual
all.
seems to have become standard practice in Egypt at the time. Soldiers returning from combat and presenting the dismembered right hands of their... Yes,
Hand only had 11%.
Oh.
Only 11% went for the right answer. Hands, yes. The
I'm
dismembered
disappointed in
right
me.
hands of their defeated foes were presented to the pharaoh or military commander, apparently. The ritual was picked up through tomb inscriptions and temple reliefs describing this gruesome public ceremony. But the new study, conducted by a German and Austrian research team and drawn from an analysis of skeletal remains, offers the first physical evidence of it. They also did something else. I was reading this piece earlier this morning, and they figured out, listen to this, these guys are really good. Guys, men and women who are working on this. Julia Kresge is a paleopathologist, actually, from the German Archaeological Institute in Berlin. And there's got to be a ding word in there somewhere. She figured out all sorts of things based only on the hands left behind. For example, she figured out the biological sex of all of these soldiers using a non-invasive measure that compares the length of index fingers with the length of the ring finger. The ring fingers of males tend to be longer than their index fingers. The opposite is true of females, she said. Anyway, what is interesting is that they figured out additionally, and then I would like your guess on this, Kim. Did they remove the hands of people while they were alive or dead? They figured this out.
Alive. Yeah.
They
Brutal.
say within before rigor mortis set in. So it had to be
after death.
So after death and before rigor mortis, that's what they suggest.
That was kind. I would have thought that it would have been more brutal, like,
Yeah. Well, they had a lot of other
big
pretty
row of
brutal
hands,
stuff
and you
going
go
on.
around chopping them down. Everybody, sword hand out, boom.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Yeah. Time for hand removal, everybody. Come on over. Let's not make us,
Make a big deal to do out of it.
Yeah. All right. That is the latest on that. And by the way, they wanted right hands because right hands were typically viewed as the dominant hand for most activities. So it was yet another piece of evidence of your dominance over your foe. So that's the coda to all of that. So
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Kim's News is upcoming, and I've got the great David K. Johnston after that. Pulitzer Prize winner, incredible investigative reporter, Polk Award-winning journalist, and best-selling author. Before that, do we have time for the AI?
Let's do
Let's do this AI story that I mentioned. So, artificial intelligence, the potential and the threat is already pretty clear in general terms. But Kim ran into this piece, an interview with Justine Bateman. Justine Bateman, who was on what show, Kim?
She was on, I forget the show, but it was on KTLA. I think it might have been their
No.
morning show.
But what was the show? How did she was famous
was it
because she's on a
Family-
sitcom.
Was it
Family
Family
Ties,
Ties?
I thought. Yeah,
it
wasn't
might
it?
have been one of those like 80s,
Yeah, but
right?
yeah. Family Ties is what it was.
Yeah.
Do you remember her name? Clearly not if you couldn't remember the show.
God.
I can't believe you. This is shameful.
Mallory. She was Mallory.
Yes, Mallory.
Mallory on Family Ties.
It was Mallory.
Yeah.
Did you have to cheat?
I did. Yeah.
You did cheat. Totally. And you want to know why Kim hasn't received
No.
the
that
rod
wasn't
of
a quiz.
equity and mercy?
You said you just wanted the answer. You didn't say don't look it
Oh,
up.
how dare you even try to get off the hook on the cheat. Now, anyway, Mallory had some thoughts on AI, and let's run a little bit of the interview.
AI has to be addressed now or never. I believe this is the last time any labor action will be effective in our
from
business.
her.
If we don't make strong rules now, they
Stop
simply
this for a
won't
second,
notice.
please, Tony. What Sam is doing is reading a quote that she has about the writer's strike as it relates to AI. So when she talks about making a strong stand in our business, she's talking about the effect of AI on writing and on producing in Hollywood. So now continue, sorry.
Well, first I want to explain to people what AI is. I have a computer science degree from UCLA, and it's basically an algorithm. It's more complex than what I'm going to describe, but basically you just feed it a lot of information, like if you, like Waze, okay? You feed it all the maps, you feed it all the real-time traffic, and then you give it a task. Take me from spot A to spot B in the shortest amount of time, and it delivers that task based on all the material you've given it. The really kind of harsh reality of AI in the entertainment business is it's trained on all of our past work. All of our scripts, our films, all these actors' performances, all of this. So it's a regurgitation, it's an amalgamation. You give it a task and it spits out some new product that's based on all of our past work. So that I hope the Copyright Office is involved in this already. You know, this is a massive infringement, like the size of which we've never seen before.
You're a member of SAG-AFTRA.
There's
You're
never
a member
been
of
anything
WGA.
like this.
You're a member of the Directors Guild. You also put this up of particular note to actors. Actors, you write, you must have ironclad protection against the AI use of your image and your voice
This
in
is
the
what's
SAG
fascinating as well.
MBA Master Business Agreement, or your profession is finished. Demand it from SAG-AFTRA and do not accept any producer proposal that does not have it. Do you think the actors can get what you suggest?
I don't know. They were the AMPTP, which is the collection of studios and streamers and all this that are bargaining together. They refused to engage with the Writers Guild of America about AI at all, which is beyond extremely troubling. That, I think, is the absolute problem. And if the Screen Actors Guild, who are now putting together what they're going to talk to the AMPTP about, the Directors Guild has already started talking to them. But if the Directors Guild of America and the Screen Actors Guild can't get restrictions on AI, I don't personally believe that there is any other choice but to strike. Because them saying we're not going to even talk to you about AI means they are not only going to use it, but they're already planning on using it. I was on the negotiating committee of the Screen Actors Guild back in around 07, 08, I forget exactly, and when the Writers Guild went on strike. And I was saying to them, we've got to get some real estate on made for new media, which is what they were calling it back then, which is basically streaming. And the AMPTP at the time was saying, the internet, putting video on the internet is really new. We don't know if we're ever going to make any money off of it. We don't know if that's profitable at all.
Now what you end up, this is exactly right.
Thank God the union's got some real.
Yeah, she's making a point, and we've got to move on, but she's making a point that the union does have a foothold in that area in the sense that it's been brought up before in negotiations, but they never really did get super, shall we say, substantial concessions or even modest concessions in the area of streaming. That's why streaming is such a tremendous threat to all the creatives in Hollywood and to everyone in Hollywood, because even streaming numbers are kept secret from those producers and writers.
No one knows the real streaming. No one knows the real streaming numbers.
No one knows the real
movie theaters, because movie theaters are third party.
So when we talk about residuals, which is the old system, who would have thought? I mean, old system meaning like 3 months ago. I mean, it's still out there, but reruns are immaterial in the streaming universe. Now, that leaves aside completely the essential point she's making, which is about AI, and the fact that essentially AI is taking the universe of things written and generating new scripts and new ideas. And how are writers going to possibly be compensated for that? It really does seem to be one of those issues around which there may be a very difficult course to plot towards some kind of equitable solution.
Well, the creepy thing about what she said is they could take all the YouTube shows, all the movies you've ever been in, all the radio shows, feed it your voice, your image, your likeness, your sense of humor, your everything. And then out it spits the other end with something that's a lot like you.
Right. I mean, it is.
Do you know who I am?
Yes.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah, you're kind of a big deal that the computer AI, the algorithmic driven brain, can imitate, as Kim says. So to be watched. But look, these two sides in Hollywood are not even talking right now. And I think this is going to be a long strike. And the last one was pretty long. This one may be longer, and the studios are doing something that they did last time, and they're doing it in an even more severe and aggressive way this time, and it's this. They're shaking out all the producers and writers who have overall deals. So if you're a showrunner on any kind of show right now that has been affected by the writer's strike, and by the way, that's all the shows, any scripted show, right? They are saying, hey, you're not hitting your delivery dates now. We don't care why. And so we're legitimately allowed to wriggle out of our deal with you. So this is, I think it's a titanic moment in Hollywood. So we'll watch for it more. That's the latest on that and AI. Thank you for that, Kim. I think it's really
We
strong.
have processes and protocols and standards.
Well, those are going to be affected by AI as well. So I've got David K. Johnston next.
The Mark Thompson Show.
We're going to bump Kim's news. We'll supersize at bottom of the hour so that we can get right to this guy. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner, Polk Award-winning investigative reporter, best-selling author, brilliant source on government, on the law, on taxes, and on the privileged in society who've been lucky enough to be in the upper reaches of income and how society continues to work for them. But when it comes to the legal issues that Donald Trump and his acolytes actually find themselves in, no better source than this guy. How about it for David K. Johnston, everybody?
Hello, Mark.
Hello, sir. I addressed in the first half hour, a little bit anyway, of the situation that Rudy Giuliani finds himself in with this new lawsuit, which I guess has recordings about certain things and certainly allegations that are wide-ranging from sexual harassment in the workplace, but also the selling of pardons for $2 million. I wonder if you can remark on this and just speak to what we can expect here.
Well, this 70-page lawsuit is essentially a roadmap to criminal behavior by Rudy Giuliani, and at many points in the complaint, it describes action and then says there's a voice recording or the emails. The woman has, according to her lawyers, all of Rudy's emails for a period of time, 23,000 of them, because he put her in charge of it. This is a woman, a middle-aged woman who was offered $1 million a year to go to work for Rudy. He only paid her $12,000. He said he had to defer paying her because he was hiding money from his wife, his fourth wife, I think, Judith, from their divorce. Maybe she's his third wife. And then he didn't pay her. But it is the assertion in the complaint that there are video or audio recordings, voice recordings, and emails that support many of the things that should be very troubling to Giuliani. He's issued a flat denial. It's all untrue. A little difficult to make that case when you have voice recordings. And the discussion of the sale of pardons, $2 million each, half to Donald, half to Rudy, also includes an allegation that Rudy parked the money with somebody else so he could evade income taxes on it. Now, this is the only part of the serious items for which the complaint does not specify that there's a video, audio recording, or an email. But one of the lawyers said last night on Lawrence O'Donnell that there are corroborating witnesses for this. And let me just point out one other thing. I read this 70-page complaint, and I kept saying to myself, this is a very well-drafted complaint. This is a very powerful complaint. I get to the end. It's signed by 3 lawyers, the second of whom is my wife's weekly tennis partner. Someone my wife and I have dinner with, she and her paramour, once a month or once every couple of months.
Well, boy, so you can provide perhaps some real ongoing insight into this. By the way,
she's a really, really good lawyer. She's done some legal work for me and refused to accept payment for it. So I've sent her over cases of really nice wine that she likes. But
is senility a legal defense, David K. Johnston? John wants to know if Rudy was smart, whether he might claim that.
He might. And, we don't criminally try people who are not competent to stand trial. Of course, we don't do that. But Rudy's continuing to hold himself out there as someone who is competent. On the other hand, he's 78 or 79 years old. And according to this woman, was popping Viagra all the time, demanded that she perform oral sex on him while he was having phone calls with Donald because it made him feel like he was Bill Clinton. And an obvious question is, why did she put up with that? Well, he owes her $2 million, and he made it clear that if she quit, he was never going to pay her. And the world is full of many women who have submitted to this kind of treatment. There's a federal judge in Galveston who is now in prison where he belongs, who called himself the Emperor of Galveston. He only hired women to work around him who were dependent on that job, and in some cases were involved in child custody disputes with their spouse or ex-spouse, and made it clear that, unless they did as he demanded, that he would see to it that their child custody disputes went the wrong way and they lost their kids. He, by the way, was not convicted after being impeached because he made a deal to resign so that while he spends the rest of his life in prison, his wife will enjoy, courtesy of you and me and everyone listening, the taxpayers paying his pension to his wife.
Oh, that's wild. Just wild. Well, Giuliani is an embattled figure, and certainly the last couple of years of the Trump administration punctuated a lot of his embattled outcries about everything from how Trump was being attacked by the left. He became such a Trump apologist. He was a regular on Fox News Channel, which was also, the place that carried the water for Trump. Yep. And he did seem to show up. You'd see these video clips of him inebriated, or he seemed to be inebriated, and it's suggested in this complaint that he was inebriated from time to time, I'll say, or maybe much of the time. I don't know if it was much of the time, but enough that it was noted in the complaint.
Yeah, there are a number of people who have said that Rudy has been pickled pretty much 24 hours a day for a number of years now. But that, being an alcoholic is not a defense, especially if criminal charges are brought. And this complaint is it is a roadmap for prosecutors. I even think you could construct out of this a RICO case, a racketeering enterprise case regarding his firm. This is real serious trouble for him, especially because of the voice recordings and the emails.
This is interesting. I want to ask you, David, just to follow up on that. The notion that you're addled in some way by alcohol or drugs isn't a legal defense. And I asked this sort of having just taken stock of what you also said about dementia or kind of losing it, or, I mean, where's the law come down on one and the other?
It's potentially a mitigating factor, and he can argue that if this goes to trial, and if he's still alive by the time it goes to trial, in a criminal matter, he can argue that he was out of his mind and try to sell that argument. But the burden is on the defendant in a criminal case in those matters. And I think Rudy Giuliani would have a tough time selling that. There are lots of functioning alcoholics in the world, plenty of them. Secondly, in the civil matter, that's not much of a defense at all. And if she can establish clearly that he promised her the $2 million and didn't pay it, then her claim for compensation is quite strong and quite clear. I don't know that either of these will end up going to trial. I think the most important point is all of the points that it makes about him facilitating criminal behavior. He coached the woman. If you're interviewed by the FBI, here's how you evade their questions. I don't recall. I don't remember. The courts know how to deal with that. You have to be credible about that. And you can be impeached on cross-examination about it. But I think this is very important. It even goes to the extortion of Ukraine by Trump and the people around him. And it goes to the subtitle of my most recent book, The Big Cheat, how Donald Trump enriched himself and his family while fleecing America.
Yeah, that book is just terrific. Look, all your Trump books have really been, as I've said before, you could needle drop them and you just find that it's just a page turner wherever you start. But and it's true. I mean, the Trump stuff is true. I wonder how because we didn't talk to you last week, and a couple of people are mentioning in the chat they missed you so much last week.
Yeah, I apologize.
No, it's fine. But we didn't, as a result, even get a chance to sort of ramp up to this town hall, and now we still haven't gotten your reaction to these things that Trump said during the town hall. Could you just give us a second on that? I'm just curious what your reaction was.
Well, first of all, I have a very minority opinion about the town hall. Trump, you will notice in many of the scenes, was slumping. He wasn't sitting upright. He often didn't look Caitlin Collins in the eye, but he wasn't looking at the audience. And he showed at a number of points utter contempt. And if there was any doubt about it, it was when he called her a nasty person or a nasty woman. The format was terrible. CNN agreed to terms under which the only people in the audience were Trumpers. They may have been independents or Republicans, but they voted for Trump. And while some of them were critical of some of his behavior, this was not a representative audience. And furthermore, it's New Hampshire, which is certainly not representative of America on a demographic rate or racial basis. That said, I think that this was a real public service by CNN because people got to see Donald the way I know him to be. And they got to see how petulant, how petty, how uninformed, how delusional he is. I'll settle the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. Nobody but a complete cultist Trumper would believe that for 1 second. And he wouldn't be tied down on all sorts of issues. So for all of the flaws and faults in this, I think that there was actually a public service here. You're never going to change the minds of the cultist Trumpers, and you're not going to change the minds of people who understand who Donald Trump is. The group that matters are people who can be peeled off and have their eyes opened, and who, will say, well, I don't like who Trump is, but I like his policies. Those are the kind of people who can be peeled off. And I firmly believe, Mark, that it's really important that we get back to having a Republican Party that's, as they used to like to call themselves, the party of ideas, that used to call itself the party of law and order, even though now it's calling for all sorts of attacks on law enforcement, promising to do terrible things to the FBI and the Justice Department. The party has just gone off the deep end, and the most far out irresponsible elements are calling the shots. And this is not good for the country. We need to have a strong, principled, and idea-based conservative party. And that's what the Republicans have traditionally been, the conservative party.
Well, I was deeply troubled by this Mar-a-Lago hosted event over the weekend. It was Michael Flynn was at the center of it, and Trump called in to this event. It's there is a quote theology or some kind of quote Christian underpinning to all of this. It really put together the preachers, the Q-sters, and conspiracy theorists all in one place, and it was Mar-a-Lago. And so Trump calls in. Flynn takes the call and puts it on the public address system as the former President Trump tells Michael Flynn that he is going to be coming back should Trump be elected. Flynn will be a part of his new administration. I wonder if you could remind us who Flynn is and he was at the center of this event. As I say, he was one of the organizers.
Well, Michael Flynn was a general, so he rose way up in the military ranks. Something happened to him around 2014 or 15. Barack Obama, during the period between the 2016 election and Trump taking office 10 weeks later, very specifically told Trump not to have anything to do with Michael Flynn. Of course, that meant in Trump's mind that he should embrace Flynn as tightly as possible because anything Barack Obama did was bad in Donald's mind. Michael Flynn was on the payroll of the Russian government. There's a famous picture of him along with Jill Stein having dinner with Putin. And he was also paid by Russian interests in Turkey. His conduct was unbecoming an officer. And Trump finally dumped him after 28 days as his national security advisor. Trump then, after Flynn was convicted, he made a deal to get his son off the hook and to take the weight for his crimes. So that one level you got to recognize as a decent guy. I'm not going to have my son go to prison so that I don't go. I assure you, if Donald was in the other shoes, he would send his 3 older children to prison in a minute to save himself. And he then was pardoned by Trump, which is, just one of the examples of the corrupt way Trump dealt with the pardon process.
Yeah, Flynn's brother still hasn't been cleared of his Jan 6 involvement.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that Flynn's were both in government, in the military.
Yeah, I mean, that's not uncommon. You have people.
Right. No, exactly.
You just got on as an actor, and her brother's an actor. My 8 children, none of them went into journalism because they're smarter than I am.
Well, no, I mean, and many families that involve law enforcement or the military, there is a legacy kind of service that continues. So, yeah, there's nothing damnable about that. But I think the point was that that still nothing has happened on the brother. But I mentioned all of this, and we have this conversation sort of in view of what you were saying about extremist aspects of the GOP sort of driving the agenda. And so that leads me to the debt conversation. I wonder if you could just give us a second on that. I was saying in the first hour that because the party, the GOP, and McCarthy's tenuous hold on the leadership is being driven by the extremists in that party, I'm wondering if they really wouldn't do what Trump suggested they do during that town hall, which is let the nation default.
So let me just step back from this a little bit. The United States currency is the global world reserve currency. When I went down to Argentina before speaking at the World Investigative Reporting Conference in Rio, my wife spent a week in Buenos Aires. We discovered that if you had cash, everybody would discount their prices as much as 50% if you can hand them U.S. dollars, not credit cards, but U.S. dollars, because the economy is so bad. The same thing when Egypt 40 years ago when we went there. We took $500 and turned it into the equivalent of $6,000.
Wow.
For a 2-week visit. The United States makes an enormous amount of money off the value of the currency. We print dollars, people buy them overseas. They don't come back into circulation here. And as a result, it's a huge profit center for us. There is no problem selling American debt. Investors are lined up every day, even when interest rates were 1.25% for many Treasury notes. There was no auction that wasn't fully subscribed. They were all fully subscribed or oversubscribed. So there is no problem here regarding refinancing the debt and increasing it. The problem is entirely a political one based on a lie, and that is the idea that your and my and the audience's household finances are comparable to the government. They're not. There is no comparability whatsoever. Our Constitution gives our government, specifically our Congress, monopoly control over our currency. So long as the United States can borrow in its own currency, there is no limit to the amount of money we can borrow as long as people will buy it. Now,
Let me just stop you there for a second, David, just to review what you've just said. You're saying this idea somehow that, you've got to pay your debts or there's a limit to what you can spend, and that limit is what it is. When they talk about it in terms of you paying your Visa card or American Express card, you're saying that's a false comparison.
That's exactly correct. Now, I'm sure somebody in the audience is saying, oh, yeah, I got some Russian rubles from my great-grandfather. Well, yeah, because Tsarist Russia doesn't exist anymore. If you bought a Confederate scrip in the Civil War, it's worthless. Unless you overthrow the government of the United States, you're going to get paid. On the other hand, China, which now has an economy that by some measure, something called purchasing power parity, is larger than America's, much less per person, but larger overall, certainly on a par with us, wants to become the dominant world financial power. They want the renminbi, their currency, to replace the dollar. If we default even once, it's over. Nobody will ever trust us again the way they have. That doesn't mean there'll be no trust, but they'll never trust us the way we have. There is nothing the Republican Party can do more to help the communist Chinese dictatorship in Beijing than to cause a default on our government. And why the Democrats aren't screaming at that at the top of their lungs is a bit of a mystery. Now, at the end of the day, I suspect that we will end up with some kind of a deal, because you only need 6 Republicans to cross the line and vote for an increase in the debt ceiling. And there are still moderate, responsible, grown-up, adult Republicans, moderates, in the Republican Party. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not the center of the party. She's at the far out edge. Lauren Boebert is at the far out, crazy and stupid, uneducated edge. But you just need a handful of Republicans, and if they're from safe districts, they can do this and they can defy Kevin McCarthy. Secondly, if this goes south, then the question is, well, who's going to be blamed? Biden or McCarthy? And the problem for McCarthy, the House Speaker, is that the Republicans voted to spend this money. If we simply undid the 2017 Trump Republican tax cuts that were passed with not a single public hearing, never happened before in American history, not one public hearing, and the benefits of which went overwhelmingly to large corporations, the next year, 2018, corporate tax receipts fell by 1/3. 1/3. Donald Trump personally, assuming he's paying taxes, had his rate cut 40% by this bill. Was very much designed to benefit Donald Trump personally.
Even as he messaged that it wouldn't have any effect on him.
That's exactly right.
It's bad for him.
If Donald says something, you should start with the assumption the opposite is true.
Okay. Yeah.
And ordinary people, they got little bitty tax cuts. For a married couple, the amount you would earn before you had taxable income, because part of your income is not taxed, went up from, if my memory is right, it was $21,700 for a married couple to $25,000. That's some, but not much. The 10% bracket was replaced with a 12% bracket, the 15% with a 22% bracket.
So you're saying the loss of that revenue, though, has left us in this place as much as any kind of spending on the part of the Democrats.
It has. And more importantly, Mark, how was this financed? It was financed not through economic growth, but through borrowing money. And we knew this when it was passed. The staff of the Joint Congressional Committee on Taxation they issue the official scoring of tax legislation and spending legislation. They said you're going to have to borrow. What they said at the time was 1.8 trillion. It's now up to 2.5 trillion. So there was no tax cut in 2017. That's the point I wanted to get to. There was a tax deferral into the future plus interest. That's what happened. And so once you have authorized spending, as Congress has, you have a moral obligation and a legal obligation to pay your bills. Now, there are ways to deal with this. The 14th Amendment says the debts of the United States shall not be questioned. Would that be upheld by the Supreme Court if the Treasury Department keeps selling Treasury debt? Boy, I'm dubious about that, given who's on the court today. Biden has other options. We have hundreds of billions of dollars in gold at Fort Knox. What the heck is good is that doing us? He could start selling it. We have oil in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We could sell some of that. There's land. The government sells land every day. There are things that the administration can do, but they're only going to last as long as those resources can be sold off. But if they don't reach a deal and we default, make no mistake about it, this is the Republican Party, however unintentionally, helping the rise of the communist dictatorship in Beijing and working against liberty and freedom and all the principles this country has stood for more than 200 years.
Of the scenarios that we've got to wrap up, but here in the last minute or so, of the scenarios that you've just talked about, it seems, even though it would be challenged at the Supreme Court level, like the 14th Amendment, essentially just ignoring this congressional limit and this, I consider it almost a hostage situation that the administration's in. You could ignore it and just at full speed ahead and really make the point. By the way, David, I would think you could message more effectively than the Democrats are while doing it. You can talk about how childhood poverty is one of the things that is going to be eliminated by these cuts that the GOP are insisting on, et cetera.
I spoke today to a woman who's just about to turn 75 years old, and she depends on Social Security for 80% of her income. And she is absolutely terrified that she won't get her next Social Security check, or it'll even be delayed because she lives on an incredibly thin budget, as you can imagine. And she's a retired school teacher who graduated 4.0 from college. And she's absolutely terrified. She woke up in the middle of the night terrified over what this means. The Republican plan that they've put forward, 200 and some page plan. Remember when they used to complain about how long bills by Democrats were? It calls for cutting benefits to veterans, the people who went out and put their lives on the line and came back in many cases, like my father did, 100% disabled veteran. We're going to cut them. It contains on 170 some of the 200 and some pages, tax favors for the fossil fuel industry. Additional favors to the tax favors to the fossil fuel industry. So it's not a serious plan. What they counted on was what they got. The TV networks didn't report that. None of the three networks, which I watch one and then rush through the other two on my DVR every night, not a word in those reports. Very rarely do journalists in Washington actually read the official public record. They go by talking point memos that they're given and access to people. And if the networks had read this and all started out saying the Republicans announced that they have a plan to reduce spending, but 80% of the pages propose more tax cuts for the oil, natural gas, and coal industries, I think the nature of our debate would be different.
So well said. And honestly, you've left us with some stuff I'd love to follow up on next week. One of those things is the way media is covering these major issues and major politicians. It seems so superficial and misguided, but we have to wrap now. I so appreciate you spending time with us every week. The great David K. Johnston, everybody. Thanks, David. Yep, you too, my friend.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I mean, David makes so many provocative points there, and you in the chat, thank you. I see a lot of what you have thrown in on. And I will follow up with David on some of that stuff next time. I'll tell you what I will follow up on. I mean, there are a couple of you who said, can David please do a deep dive on Joe Biden and on Biden's situation with investigations and the like. And I'd be happy to take that up with him. I'd be happy to take up also this question about media, and how to cover these various stories. And you see the struggle that media organizations endure. Vice just went under, right? Vice is going to be acquired, I think. But Kim had the story yesterday about how Vice declared bankruptcy. And I think Vice is, again, this was a vital digital platform that was an outpost of really great reporting. And Vice is going away as it was. So we'll talk about that. Again, maybe follow up with him on that next week and in the days ahead. There was something else I had before Kim's news. I'll figure it out. I also see so many of you have been very helpful, so cool in throwing in. Do you post the super stickers and super chats when they come in? Who does that? Kim? Tony?
I haven't yet, but yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
I can bring them up in a minute if you want.
Well, we'll bring them up, but what I'd like to do, sort of as a house rule, is bring them up when they come in, or as close to when they come in as possible, and then we'll recognize them all at one time. I know sometimes we're talking as a conversation; it can seem awkward, but when you contribute to the show, we want to recognize you right away. And definitely, if you send me a super chat, I will read it. That's part of the deal. So. I saw somebody in the chat, Kim, very put off by the fact that I was so hard on you about and am being so difficult
about the rod of equity and mercy.
Receiving the rod of equity and mercy.
It just makes it that much sweeter when my rod comes.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. It builds the anticipation. But I know somebody said, I just can't watch. Mark's so cruel to Kim.
Oh, it's,
wow.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Alas, it is the situation. Look, I'm just the face. The elders at the Mark Thompson Show make the decision as to who gets the rod of equity and mercy. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I petitioned to actually make Kim eligible. I petitioned.
That's a minus ding for you.
What did I say?
A petitioned.
Kim, that you would point that out makes me understand why you're not receiving the rod of equity and mercy.
I take a ding away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, all I'm trying to say is that I've lobbied on Kim's behalf, and now I'm second guessing it, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Smash the like button for Kim.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Smash the like button for David K. Johnston.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Smash it like a boss.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Let us begin with a scary situation in California regarding hospitals. Relief apparently coming to California hospitals struggling to stay open. Those in bankruptcy or about to file can now apply for an emergency loan. Governor Gavin Newsom signed that bill yesterday, saying this will ensure that communities can access the care and services they need without disruption. A recent report found 20% of California's hospitals are at risk of closing. The legislature may consider even more loan money in the next budget year. Another California county is now in a state of emergency. Yeah, Solano County. Governor Gavin Newsom declaring that for Solano County, saying it's been dealing with significant impacts from late winter storms like flooding and roadway slope erosion. He already took action for 51 counties to support their recovery from the severe weather. That includes record snowfall, down trees, mudslides, dam overflows, and levee failures. So now add Solano County to the list. Yosemite National Park bracing today for some flooding. Yeah, it is the Merced River that is expected to reach flood stage of 10 feet this morning. could be higher by Saturday. The entire valley is under a flood warning as this week's warm temperatures speed up the snowmelt in the Sierra. Officials say some areas may not reopen until next month. 3 campgrounds are off limits until tomorrow. They may well be kept closed for a little longer as well.
This is unreal. It's all a part of that snowmelt. And the burn, the fact that so much forestry and cover has been burned is a part of the snowmelt too. You don't have the canopy effect that actually slows the snowmelt. So in addition to record snow, you have an accelerated snowmelt based on the fact that so many of these areas have been burn ravaged. It's a weird confluence of variables, Confluence, I guess, would be a ding word.
That'll make up for the one you lost. A state effort.
How dare you? How
Yeah,
dare
yeah.
you?
You just
I know.
don't get it.
You don't get it.
You don't.
Uh-huh. A state effort to ban some ingredients from candy moving forward. The bill focuses on 5 chemicals found in Skittles and Nerds, as well as other processed foods linked to health risks. The assembly member behind the push says it's unacceptable that the United States is so far behind the rest of the world when it comes to banning these dangerous additives. The bill passed one step, now heads to the state Senate for consideration. Hopefully it's changed your Skittle eating habits. I don't know. The air in the subways in New York, no bueno. The New York City subway stations being found to have alarmingly high levels of airborne toxins, according to an NYU study that took readings at 271 subway platforms back in December of 2021. They found pollution from airborne iron particles was 126 times higher than what people would be exposed to outdoors. Of course, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority in New York insists there's nothing dangerous about
It's
subway
as fresh as a pine forest, everyone. Don't be panicked, New Yorkers. My God, you can stand on the subway platform. You can smell it. I mean, I've smelled it since I was a kid in New York. Those iron, whatever you talk about, that particulate matter that's iron. Oh, my God. I mean, it smells like metal. So, not exactly breaking news.
Not only does it smell like metal, but apparently you're breathing it all in. So take a big old deep breath and enjoy. Ugh. Barf. They didn't say, though, what breathing in all that iron, what the health risks were. They just said it's 126 times what you would breathe outside.
I see. So you're saying maybe you can become Iron Man or something.
It's
might have positive. Yeah. Maybe they should have gone for that, the positive spin.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes you stronger, more robust.
Sure. Everybody needs some iron.
Everybody needs a little toxic air. Hey.
Yeah.
Farmington. Horrible. Police in New Mexico say the teenage gunman who killed 3 and wounded 6 others roamed through a neighborhood firing at random. On this street. It looks like a really nice, peaceful area. No. Farmington Police Chief Steve
If it's in
Heaney.
America, it's not a nice, peaceful area.
No, it isn't.
It could be
You
the
never
United
know.
States of guns coming to visit it.
The police chief said last night the yet unnamed shooter was carrying an AR-15 style rifle and at least 2 other weapons as he randomly fired at cars and houses before officers shot and killed him. Yeah.
If the iron won't get you, the other iron will. This is a sad fact in America. Just
Iron's
brutal.
gonna get you one way or another, right?
Yeah, so tough.
There's a Connecticut senator introducing a bill to prevent another Ticketmaster meltdown following last fall's Taylor Swift debacle. The site crashed last November when Swift fans rushed to buy pre-sale tickets to her Eras tour. Richard Blumenthal's Unlocked Tickets Marketing Act would require more federal oversight and would apparently encourage competition as well. So a little love coming for Ticketmaster.
I like
guess.
a little oversight and I like competition. And bravo for Blumenthal's proposed legislation. Debacle is a ding word, by the way.
I'll take it. Thank you very much. Elon Musk being subpoenaed as part of the lawsuit in the United States Virgin Islands, accusing J.P. Morgan Chase of enabling sexual abuse by Jeffrey Epstein. According to Reuters, the subpoena is seeking all communications between Musk and Epstein, stating Epstein may have referred the Tesla and SpaceX CEO to that bank. The subpoena also reportedly requests documents from Musk about Epstein's involvement in human trafficking. And lastly, something a little lighter. Yes, Taco Tuesday is in dispute. Did you know this? Well,
What?
I know. It's upsetting. Let me get rid of Elon and let you know that, yeah, look at this. So apparently Taco John's is the home of Taco Tuesday,
Yes.
right? They have trademarked it. They say that's how seriously they take Taco Tuesday.
Okay.
And other people say, don't. You can't have Taco Tuesday. Absolutely not. Taco Tuesday belongs to no man. Taco Bell.
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
Yeah. No one should be able to
No.
actually copyright it.
Taco Bell wants to cancel the trademark Taco Tuesday. The trademark has been owned by rival Taco John's for 34 years. Taco Bell argues the phrase should be freely available to all who sell, make, eat, and celebrate the taco.
Wow.
So you can't just, co-opt Taco Tuesday for your very own. No, because Taco Tuesday is more than just Taco John's.
Taco Tuesday belongs to everybody, is your point, Kim.
Good day, sir.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels wrong.
Look at that.
Wrong. Taco Tuesday is for all.
Well, Tony does he consults
It's also a
to
very good podcast.
to a podcast.
Thanks, Tony.
Oh.
That's what we can't half the time when I can't get a hold of Tony's with some bunch of taco people for Taco Tuesday, the podcast. Mm-hmm. It just shows up there because he likes tacos, I think.
They feed me tacos and margaritas. I mean, come
they
on.
give the tacos and barely. I don't think he makes any money doing it. He just goes there for tacos and margaritas.
That's fine.
Right. Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
You know what goes really, really well with tacos? Wine.
Tenuta Vineyards.
That's right. As a matter of fact, the Why Are You Yelling Red with a taco, I'm telling you guys.
Oh, yes.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah.
The absolute best. And right now, if you're thinking about Taco Tuesday, I know you can order your wine at Tenuta Vineyards and you can get 10% off by doing it. Right. All you have to do is call Tenuta Vineyards, Tenuta Vineyards, and you call Rich and you say, listen, I want some Why Are You Yelling Red?
Listen, I want some Why Are You Yelling Red?
Kind of like Joe Box. Rich is at 925-699-4576.
Joe Box and Little Anthony.
Yeah.
You do have to use the secret password, though.
It is?
Smash it
with your iron rod.
Smash with your iron rod. Call Tenuta. Tell them smash it with your iron rod. You get 10% off everything. Not just my wine. Everything.
Yes, and you order a big old case and you have it shipped right to your house. You've got enough Why Are You Yelling Red for the upcoming apocalypse.
Now, Kim, without looking. Without looking, Kim, I keep your eyes right up here where I can see them. Without looking, tell me the name of the white wine. My white wine. Look at don't look down. Don't cheat. Tell me the name of our white wine, Kim. Do it now.
Who's Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Oh my God, Kim. Outrageous.
100% effective. How about that?
All right, whatever.
Of course, their motto is give them 30 minutes and they'll be your friends for life. And they really mean it. They say they've enjoyed getting to know so many Mark Thompson Show listeners. So give them a call, hang out for a minute, order some wine, and have a great time. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson? and little Anthony.
Mo Black's brother, Fat Andy.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
I'm not gonna cry! I'm not gonna cry! Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
My bad. I'm sorry.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
We've never seen anything like it before.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
Nobody has ever put something like this together that I've ever seen.
There's never been anything like this.
Why are you yelling?
Good day, sir.
Seriously, what the?
Yeah, what up, everybody? We finish up the week. Oh, it's not what? It's only Tuesday? Oh my God!
Taco Tuesday to you.
Oh my gosh! I don't know what to do. Man, it's only Tuesday. Wow. Well, we soldier on.
Oh my God!
Exactly. So, Kim, of course, gets a lot of love. I find, honestly, Kim, that the more I playfully insist upon your lack of knowledge regarding various aspects of the show and various franchises, the more I seem to endear you to the audience. So it seems to be working in your favor.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of love for you.
Look at that.
Would you like to? Yes, we posted it. I saw it and posted it.
Tony, that's so nice.
I was on Kim's side with the rod of equity, but she should know the names of your wine by now, says Tony in San Antonio.
Yeah.
I'm with Mark. Don't let her have it, Mark. Wow.
Tony, I thought you were my boyfriend. What happened? No?
It's all. I think it's clear.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
I mean, the woman doesn't know the names of the basic. What is the segment we do on Fridays, Kim? She doesn't know Friday Fabulous Florida. I'm telling you, she doesn't know it. It's outrageous.
I call it the FFF.
Oh, don't
Because I
give me
can
that.
never remember whether it's Florida Fabulous Friday or Friday Fabulous Florida.
I can't remember.
Kim, how are you?
I mean, she's been on the show for how long have you been on the show? A year?
Well over that. At least
No,
two.
no.
Oh, my gosh. It's outrageous. Tony in San Antonio says, I rest my case. I love it when somebody, I don't know who it was earlier, wrote, I almost just can't watch when Mark gives Kim such a hard time. Very, very good.
Girl, you just woo.
Yeah, you are. There is breaking news out of the Bay Area. Let me tell you something, and you're going to know this person regardless of where you are. He is Chef Jose Andres. Chef Jose Andres, he may leave the Stanford Shopping Center. Why?
Crime?
Nope. Good guess, though. He is, of course, the founder of the nonprofit World Central Kitchen. I have played cards with Jose Andres. In fact, I think I've told this story. I was about to win a lot of money from him. I mean, for the game, it was a lot of money. And because he's such a good guy, I couldn't do it. And I turned my hand over to show him I had him dead to rights. And so I let him off the hook. That's my Jose Andres story. But the story with the Bay Area is that he may leave because of the restrictions on cooking with gas.
Oh.
Gas stoves. The chefs might not be able to cook with gas, and Andres may not go to Stanford, go to Palo Alto.
Yeah.
The city's natural gas ban, and he's already put a gas line that's been installed at this planned restaurant, his restaurant in Palo Alto. It may affect his future. Attorneys for the shopping center where the restaurant is going to exist, have threatened to sue if the city refuses to allow the use of the gas line and insists on an all-electric building. Traditional cooking methods that require gas appliances to achieve signature complex flavors require this gas. Some of the more conventional cooking equipment can be made electric, but other unique pieces of gas-fired equipment critical for the right taste, Kim, it cannot be serviced by anything but gas-fired equipment. If there's no gas, they say they may be forced to discontinue the project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. I can't imagine a chef would want to use an electric stove. That wouldn't fly.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, heat is heat, isn't it?
No.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd like to get a chef in here to discuss that. Can somebody recommend a chef?
When you have a gas, and this is my understanding because I'm not a very good cook, but it's another thing I'm not good at. In addition to remembering the odds and ends of the Mark Thompson Show universe. But when you have you're cooking and you need to have control over the temperature, and you can't just turn an electric stove down. It takes a while for it to, the temperature to go down. Whereas you have real control when you're talking about a gas stove, immediate flame, no flame, medium flame. So that it's much easier to control. And so then you control the outcome of your dish in a better way.
Try an induction, Blue Spark says. You will never want to use gas again. So, Chris says, why not microwave everything?
No. I once asked, something was arrived to the table
That's
cold.
pretty great. Yeah.
And I just asked the waiter, could you just zap this for a bit? And he looked at me and he goes, we don't have a microwave here. Yeah. I guess at really nice restaurants, they don't have a microwave.
We don't have a microwave.
We don't have a microwave. Why don't you go back and hang out at the Walmart parking lot?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Did you explain that you were someone who has yet to receive the rod of equity and mercy, so perhaps you're not as enlightened on certain things?
That would have been a good excuse, but I didn't pull that one out.
Or you could have said, look, I'm from regular stock.
I come from regular stock.
Yeah, so I'm, what can I do?
I'm out in the Walmart parking lot with Clarence Thomas.
Right, with Clarence Thomas. We're not...
Are in the RV in the back of the parking lot. Yeah.
As we finish up, I want to know, Kim, why the new garbage cans in San Francisco aren't going to happen. I was so excited for these new garbage cans.
No, we can't have nice things. I'm sorry.
Can you find it's in the rundown, Tony? I don't know if you can. Tony's got a Chronicle subscription, though. Maybe you can find it. The picture of these.
I can't access it.
Third from the bottom.
Yeah, but you have to do it, Kim, because Tony doesn't have I think it's behind a paywall, but I wanted to show everybody what these trash cans in San Francisco. So San Francisco is a city that is both besieged by all these problems, right? We've talked about it, homeless, drug abuse, open air drug markets, public defecation, public urination. Am I leaving anything out? Smash and grabs.
You got it pretty good.
Yeah. It's that's the bingo card roughly, but
did you get car break-ins?
I said smash and grabs.
Oh, okay.
But what I wanted to share with you is there's also a forward-thinking aspect to San Francisco. So don't just think that they're, a city that just is all that is the trash can. You see it there that they are looking at, and I was excited to see it actually implemented and go onto San Francisco streets. New garbage cans were supposed to go on. They had that huge design review committee, and they finally were going to move forward. What happened, Kim?
Because of the risk of vandalism, the project has been put on hold. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, aesthetically beautiful, functionally concerning.
Look at that.
Said one of the members of the concern.
Because we can't have nice things. You're already vandalizing stuff. Really?
We're showing a picture of the silver. It's a beautiful silver can, not just silver, but it's tagged already. It's tagged.
Yeah, tagged already.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to assume
there's
though
like
when
trash
you put
and stuff
something in San
underneath
Francisco,
the bars. It's gone to hell already.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that they're not doing a job of emptying them frequently enough. We talked about this before. San Francisco has to, I think they have to increase the number of trash cans, and they have to increase the frequency with which they empty these trash cans. You know, one of the ways to keep trash off the street is to create enough receptacles and locations for that trash that it doesn't end up on the street. So, I don't know. Taggers are, I'm not a fan, you know. Surprise, surprise.
But don't you think if you're going to spend, how much were these again? $10,000 each or whatever, some astronomical price for trash cans, that you would have made it in such a way that it would have been with a slick surface that could be wiped down, you know, that paint wouldn't stick to. If it's that expensive, then you've got to know if you drop it in San Francisco, it's going to get tagged or damaged or kicked or, you know, peed on or whatever.
And to be fair, we're talking about San Francisco. I mean, it's any major city, but I always feel like I need to say that because I don't always I always hate when San Francisco is singled out. You drop a nice trash can, silver like that, anywhere in Los Angeles, in New York, wherever, it's going to get tagged. Yeah, it's going to get tagged just like that. So, anyway, that's the latest on that. Rubbish. San Francisco's $20,000 designer trash can struggles to contain trash. Rubbish. I love this is from the British Guardian. I love the way they say rubbish. Yeah. My gosh. Well, brilliant. I'm
receive the royal scepter.
Receive the scepter. No one tagged the scepter or the rod of equity and mercy. By the way, Tony, do you receive the rod of equity and mercy? Do you?
I don't know. Have I?
Oh, you don't think so? Oh, well, please remain. If you could just look quietly at toward your camera and
receive the royal scepter.
No, the rod of equity and mercy, though, for Tony.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
All right, and good luck to you,
Enjoy that,
sir.
Tony. Yeah, enjoy that.
Enjoy that.
Via con Dios, sir.
Yeah, via con Dios, exactly. I want to recognize a couple of people who stepped up today to support us. First of all, I wanted to thank you, Vicky and Sausalito. Mark, you crack me up. Vicky, I adore you. Thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it, and it means a lot, both the moral support, you know, that you enjoy the show, and also the financial support since we're crowdfunded. So thank you. Denise Chandler for $9.99. Both of you get big Dan Ashley shout-outs.
Big shout-out.
Nice.
Thank you for the super sticker, Denise and Heidi. Wow, $20 super sticker. Big shout-out.
Big shout-out.
What's up?
Yeah. Wow. Harry Magnan, here's for Kim's rod of equity and mercy.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
Kim is still struggling to receive it.
How much do I need to raise in order to get it? Or is it not something you pay for, or something you really are worthy of?
Well, the show, desperate for funding, always, it would take a meeting probably on the figure for your rod. By the way, $10. Yeah, $10
I want to say
is
that it was bestowed upon me because I was worthy of it and I earned it.
You can thank Harry for already putting $10 in your column, though.
Thank you, Harry.
Yeah, exactly. Wes for $5. Thank you, Wes, and thank you
Wes.
everybody who's contributed today. I'll give you a thank you.
Thank you.
And I would also mention that the great way to support us on an ongoing basis, and you know all the names of the people who do this, are run at the end of the show, is to be part of our Patreon and PayPal network of supporters. And you can do that through themarkthompsonshow.com. Click the Patreon or PayPal link and you can join the community and contribute. It's a great community of contributors, and we so appreciate it. And as I say, Tony updates that list. How often do you update it, Tony? You say once a month, or what is it?
I try to do it once a week, but it usually falls to 2 weeks because
once every couple of weeks we update.
Yeah, I try again, but it always covers a month of donors. It's always like looking a month back. Always. So I always.
Okay, so
no one gets, it may take time to get you in there, but everyone gets their acknowledgments.
Okay, great. Yeah, we do want to acknowledge you every show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
And so we do. And thank you all for contributing. It's a weird thing to have to ask for contributions, but it is how we stay on the air, frankly. So we do. Tomorrow, John Rothman is through. Also tomorrow, a visit from Shadow Stevens, the voice of our show. And that's going to be, yeah. I don't know. I think I'm looking forward to Shadow.
Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, there you go, Shadow. Nikki is going on right now, I think. The show probably has already started at the Nikki Maduro channel. And she always has interesting stuff. I was watching yesterday, and you guys had on somebody who is I think a viewer to this show also, but he joined via link.
Jimbo.
Jimbo, you had a great story about, I think, wrestling somebody to the ground also. And so there's, good stuff. Yeah. Thank you all for joining us today. Thanks again to David K. Johnston. And tomorrow, as I say, Rothman and
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Kim, you don't need no stinking rod. You get our endorsement every day for the great job you do. That's the last word from Mark. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.